This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, for being a part of this Brave Healer revolution. We aim to change the world one brave word at a time around here. And today, to help me do that, I have just a couple of very special guests. These women aren't just authors. They are expert healing arts practitioners. You guys, please help me welcome two of the contributors to the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing book series, Joyce Fishel and Kathleen Haden. Hey, ladies.
Good morning.
So you guys, the first book in the series was born back at the beginning of COVID. And when I literally woke up one morning and asked a group of my healer friends if they wanted to help me teach the world how to heal at home. And here now, 5 months later, I'm so proud to announce that our third volume will be launching soon. And over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to be introducing you to these brilliant, wise, heart-centered badasses who said yes to this project. Thank you both for being two of them. Kathleen Haden has dedicated over 25 years to the health and wellness industry. Kathleen is a visionary working in the world of sound, frequencies, and vibrations to heal the planet and its inhabitants. She is CEO of Good Vibrations Music Company, a frequency infused music company making vibrational products. And you guys are going to be hooked up with the ladies' websites in our show notes. She's at goodvibrationsmusicco.com. And I've got Joyce Fishel. She's a holistic physical therapist and owner of Blue Lotus Physical Therapy and Wellness in Baltimore, Maryland. Joyce specializes in visceral manipulation and restorative exercises to treat chronic pain and improve reproductive, easy for me to say, reproductive, digestive, and emotional health. Her passion is empowering people by helping them understand their bodies better. She's at bluelotusphysicaltherapy.com, you guys. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So, Kathleen, I'm going to start with you. You wrote chapter 23. I'm hoping I'm getting my numbers right today. And it talks about healing with sacred geometry, vibration, and sound. Talk to me about this chapter and how sound can heal.
Well, sound is what makes up our world. And our world was created with the word, which is sound. And so everything revolves around sound, frequencies, and vibration. And when we talk about frequencies, everything has a frequency. Every plant, every organ, every system of the body has a resonant frequency. So it's kind of like when you're putting these frequencies together in your body, they all are in harmony. When we get out of harmony with our frequencies, we become disharmonic. And when we are disharmonic, it sets us up for a disease state. And so what we work with is keeping you out of that disease state and taking you back to a state of harmony and balance.
So, you know, you, like all of the authors in this project, look at healing and well-being holistically. Why holistic? Why should people care about their practitioners having a holistic approach?
I feel like you have to treat the whole body. And you have to use traditional medicine, you have to use Eastern medicine, you have to use whatever can set the body up for the greatest way to heal. And so I feel like when we are in that modality of healing, we need to have all the choices offered to us and be able to choose the right one that's perfect for us, or maybe take some from here and some from there and some from over there. But it's a holistic approach of looking at the whole entire body and seeing really what's causing the disease in the body.
Yeah, you guys, it's one of the missions behind the books, honestly, was to have multiple different kinds of approaches, all from beings who look at that body holistically. And also because there are so many different people in the world and not one thing is going to help everybody. So these books have been little toolkits for people, and it makes me excited that you guys are all offering your pieces of wisdom. So Joyce, you wrote chapter 8, and that is about visceral release. What the heck is visceral release? Even though I kind of know already, I want you to share with everyone what is it and why is it important to our health?
So the viscera are the internal organs, and visceral release is working with the deepest fascial connections to the body of the viscera. You can kind of think of the inside of our torso and abdomen as a giant jello mold, like the old-fashioned granny style jelly molds with all of the ingredients. It's suspended in space, but the organs are attached to the body in very specific ways that are very important anatomically. So a lot of times physical therapists, we work with, not a lot of the time, all the time, we usually work with patients in pain or something that's not feeling right. Visceral has been a game changer because it really is about the deepest connections that surround the vital systems of our body, the vessels, the nerves, where they are at the root, at our core. So it connects with our breath, very much like Kathleen said, it has to do with the rhythms of our body and the way that we move from the inside out. Visceral is a very gentle technique. It's very specific, that offers a very tender touch to these very, very vulnerable and very, very sensitive organs that can not only harbor physical pain because maybe a surgical scar or some restriction in the way that we move, but also it is the root of our emotions, the feelings, the deeper gut feelings that we have that are part of our survival. And it helps releases tensions in places that you didn't even know that you had because you're so used to it being present in your life.
So Kathleen talked about holistic, looking at whole body. What 2 cents would you add to why do people need to understand, the difference between non-holistic approaches and holistic approaches? Why is this important in your world?
Well, I think that it is because everything is connected. A lot of times people might have, I don't know, shoulder or neck pain, and it gets better for a little while, but it seems like it's something that's going to be ongoing and it doesn't really ever resolve. And this can be because of these deeper restrictions in the way that we move and breathe and feel. We move the way that we feel. And if you have a sore neck, fine, you can move that. But it's really in moving the entire body in space that makes those greatest changes.
So one of the things I believe in and is why I put this book together the way that I did with practical, actionable tools is that part of our job as practitioners and coaches and healing arts people is to empower our clients. So Joyce, I'm going to stick with you for a minute and ask you, what's one way you empower your clients and connect them with that inner wisdom?
I think that understanding your body and connecting with your body is very important. A lot of times we become detached. We don't want to think about certain parts of our body because perhaps it grosses us out. Perhaps it's painful and you are sick of it and you don't want to deal with it any longer. I think that it is important to understand that you have more power to do more things. I think a lot of times people feel helpless in their bodies or they don't feel connected. And And it's really about understanding and introducing themselves to that and helping them move in a way that they enjoy, to create some sort of enthusiasm around who they are at the very basic element.
I love that.
Mhm.
Kathleen, what would you say about that? What's a way that you empower your clients and connect them with that inner wisdom in the sound world?
Well, I do a lot of sound journeys. And so what a sound journey is we go on an exploration of kind of taking them on a journey while they're on a sound table. And we explore where they need to release emotions, where they need to release physical pain, trauma. And we take them along that journey at the same time while the music is coming up through the table, and they have headphones on, receiving all the music and the binaural beats. It's really entraining the brain to kind of go from that beta state down to that theta delta state, so that their nervous system can calm down and take them out of that fight or flight. You have to get them out of that fight or flight, that stress response, before you can really change anything.
Kathleen, you guys, there's a massive echo. Just make sure you guys don't have another device on that's putting audio out. No? Okay, we've been having some interesting tech stuff today, you guys, with our audio. I'm not sure what it is. Let's see if that goes away. Okay. Kathleen, talk to me about this table that you guys have created. I'm excited about this product that you're putting out in the world and helping other people use. Tell me more about it.
Well, as you know, Laura, I'm a PT and a massage therapist as well. And so when we started working with healing frequencies and learning about sound about 12 years ago, I wanted a table that would produce the sound. And so we were lucky enough to be in the world of sound therapy, where they were tables out there that were vibroacoustics. And so we started looking at those and started finding a way that we could put speakers, transducers, and an amplifier with the smallest footprint of EMFs. And so we worked with a quantum physicist who placed all the components according to the golden mean ratio, which ties into sacred geometry. So where the speakers and the transducers are located on the table go directly to the exact center of your body and align you with that golden mean ratio. That's the first thing. And then we add our music, which is originally composed, Frequency Infused Music. And we have about 150 albums right now that addresses almost any condition, emotionally, physical, or spiritually. And then that music comes up through the table. So not only is it a standalone practice, but you can also use it in, like your work, Joyce, where you are working with emotional releases and visceral work. You could put them on that table and they would be getting that additional benefit of the frequencies to realign them and the binaural beats to entrain their brain at the same time. So it would just be like fast forwarding your work a little bit faster.
You guys, there's some really interesting science behind what Kathleen is talking about. And if, you know, you listen to some of that and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what she's talking about, but I really want to try it. You should be saying that, because it really can be profound. And yes, when I think about the combination there between the visceral work and the sound work, it's like, wow, it feels mind-blowing to me. Joyce, what's something that you really want the listeners to understand about this healing journey in a big sense? What's one important thing?
What do I want them to understand in the big sense? I think that being able to embrace the fact that I think I'm on a mission lately for particularly women to understand their bodies and accept their bodies a little bit more greatly. If that's more greatly, is that correct grammar? I'm not sure, first thing in the morning. But I think that it's important for people to understand that it's like all of our body, we have these very base functions. I write a little bit about bowel movements in my chapter. And I think that it's important for people to understand that there's a lot that can happen throughout your lifetime, that you have these stories and you don't want to think about what's down there below the belt, you know, or under the shorts. And so we end up spending a lot of our lives being unaware, being unfamiliar with your most basic innate beauty, because you feel like it's something that you should be hiding, because sometimes culture, society, the fact that things are not exactly, you know, dinner time talk, so we don't know how to talk about them. And I think that creating a conversation, maybe not over dinner time, but being able to understand that you can talk about this and be heard without feeling that you have to struggle with certain things that happen and that you're not alone. I think the biggest thing is that people can talk about these things and not be embarrassed, because it's being human. And I really want people to understand that there are people that they can speak to, that will listen, and that will help them understand their bodies better from a different level. Because it's not, our brains, we want to think a certain way, but some of the ways that our body works and feels is not intuitive. It's subconscious, it's non-conscious, it's beyond our ability to just, you know, scratch our heads and think out loud. It's a matter of understanding. And I really want people to understand and be educated on a global level.
It's
like
so
that.
important. You guys you're going to have to read Joyce's chapter, and she hits on pooping and sex in the same chapter, not necessarily at the same time. Any of you who have been mothers on the birthing table know that a couple things can happen at the same time that you weren't probably expecting. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast, right? But thank you, honestly, for being, you both and all of the authors, you took on the challenge of teaching in words in a book. And sometimes that's much harder than, you guys teach, your master teachers, you teach all day long, and you can be in front of your clients and do that in the ways that you do it. But to write that in words, you know, is a challenge. So thank you for taking it on. But Joyce, I know that you had a particular experience with the writing process this time, and I wonder if you'd be willing to just talk about what that was briefly.
I will. You know, I speak to my clients one-on-one all of the time about pooping and sex and different things relating to the GI system and pelvic floor, reproductive organs. However, I don't speak on a global level. So writing the words themselves, I wanted to, you know, think back to a time that was very important to me. And I reflected back to a childhood experience when I was 8 years old. And I remember thinking back to this experience, which wasn't traumatic. I've had a lot worse shit happen to me over the years. But I remember this experience as just being, you know, one of my struggles throughout my lifetime with being able to have a healthy poop. And it took me back to being in third grade. And I remember reflecting back on this experience, and I was able to take myself back to the moment. And it was really when I remember reflecting, looking out this window and thinking about my great escape. And I could picture everything, looking down the gravel beneath. I was on the second floor. The fact that it was an adjoining building, the blue sky, the beautiful fall day. There was not a cloud in the sky. It was beautiful, like probably early school. And when I looked back into that memory to finish, you know, writing my story, I looked at the little girl from my 51-year-old experience, and I realized that that feeling, I had captured it entirely in my body, and it was something that was a tremendous release. Even though I practiced this, and you always talk about feng shuiing your body, it was completely like that, where I felt this release, this experience, this compassion for this young child. And even though it was so long ago, an embarrassing experience that I really haven't shared with anybody because I was in third grade, why was it important now? But it was really an important, pivotal exchange that I had that released I don't know. It was like this mind-blowing, well, it wasn't really mind-blowing. It was more in the pelvic and sacral chakra that just blew open sort of creative expression. And when I was at a friend's house and I'd said something about a song being stuck in my head, like one of those little worms that get in your head. And she's like, what song is it? And I just belted it out and started singing. And that is not something that I just do freely. You know, I'm usually a little bit more self-conscious and actually surprised myself. But in that same sense, when you're talking about releasing tension in the gut, it is such a primal and one of our basic, most important structures that's first formulated when we're an embryo, that if you have tension in the gut, it's like knotting up. Not only you can't poop, but you become expression and creatively and emotionally constipated.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really, really amazing. Even though I practice this all the time, it never ceases to amaze me how much I still can learn from my own experience and being able to be around a bunch of other healers that encourages me to be creative and express in a way that I maybe hadn't been before.
Thank you for sharing that. You guys know that writing as a path to healing turns me on, and that's one of the tools that I write about a lot. And so when, one of my fellow authors shares about that experience, it's important to me to understand those layers. And I've watched that go on in these projects and, writing these chapters. You guys are sharing really authentic, raw, vulnerable pieces of your life in such a powerful way. And that's part of what this book is, you guys. The stories heal too, not just the tools that you're being taught. And so thank you, Joyce, for talking about that process that was going on in you. Kathleen, what's one of the important things that you want our viewers to understand about this healing journey as a whole?
I think that what we need to understand as a whole is that the things that we're being reintroduced to now, such as frequencies and sound and visceral work and all the different modalities that we talk about in this book, they're really ancient. They go back to thousands of years ago, that this was how life was practiced and life was dealt with, was through sound and through healing and through vibrations and through modalities that the ancients did. And what we're doing now is just reopening and re-exploring things that were done thousands of years ago, I feel like. And right now we're in a time where our vibration is being raised exponentially on our planet. And working with frequencies every day, some people hear music in their head or songs or whatever. Well, it's kind of interesting because I hear frequencies all the time. And my husband and he hears music and frequencies because he puts both together. But we were laying in bed last night and we were talking, and I was just like, what are these frequencies being bombarded in our heads right now? Mm-hmm. And he said, I don't know, but they're really strong. And we started kind of laughing, and all of a sudden I heard they're sonic frequencies. They're the galaxy frequencies. It's the frequencies we're raising our planet to. And so we are being asked in this day and time to raise our vibration for healing, for exponentially elevating our planet to a higher consciousness. And so I think this is a time of a reawakening, I feel like, of our whole entire planet for healing on all levels.
Right.
And so I think that your books are just perfect, Laura, because they are giving people that education and that knowledge and an ability to reach out to healers all over the world and understand that this is a time to heal yourself, but it's also a time to heal our planet.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you. So Kathleen, you have people listening to that, and some have heard the terms before and some haven't, but they're curious, right? This is a time where people are waking up to the different kinds of holistic ideas that we're presenting more and more and more with, oh my goodness, that part of this turns me on so much. I think it's so important. But is there anything that you would say to somebody who has started to lose hope about feeling better?
Yes. I think the number one thing that we're seeing right now, Laura, is loneliness and isolation. And so when you are lonely and isolated, you go down deep paths, you go down dark paths. And so the advantage right now is that there are so many people out there educating and giving free resources, you know, free Zoom calls, free lectures, free webinars, free everything, or, you know, for a nominal cost. And what I would tell someone that's looking for hope is get on the internet and start researching. It was interesting. There's a international sound therapy conference coming up in September, the latter part of September, that I'm part of. And it's just so interesting because one of the key focuses of this conference is how do you come out from isolation and loneliness and restore your body back to balance. And I found that a very good topic because that is what we're dealing with right now in our world. And from that emotional point, it takes you into the physical of disease of the body. And so if there's ways that you can reach out, I highly recommend the audience right now to reach out to all these healers that are in this book. Get on their websites, call them. You know, I know that people call us all the time just wanting to talk, just wanting to have a conversation. And I'm fortunate enough that I get to answer some of those phone calls and talk to people from all over the world that are going through that desperation and that sense of no hope. And the best thing that we can do to encourage that is education. Let people know what's out there, which is what you're doing, which I'm so grateful for, and to make people aware of their options and what kind of opportunities are out there. You know, we are fortunate, and Joyce, you may be doing this too since you're in the medical world. We are working with hospitals and doctors and clinics that 2 years ago I tried to talk to about frequencies and vibrations that were like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You're from another planet. Go out of here. That are calling us today and saying, hey, can we rekindle that conversation? Can we rekindle that conversation about how to integrate something alternative into our mainstream hospital? And so insurance companies are looking at this. I mean, we're working with some of the top insurance companies to integrate some of these healing modalities into a place where they're paid for, so people can experience both medical and alternative and a combination of both.
Yeah, thank you. Things are shifting for sure. And speaking of being able to access these amazing healers, one of the big missions with this book project, you guys, is the private Facebook group that we have where the authors are hanging out. One of the big missions here is, you know, you might read a book from a healer and that's not really somebody that you can access so much. It's just the book that you read, but we're putting all of our author experts into a private group where you can come and actually learn from them. There's going to be live trainings from all of the authors. There already is a bunch of those sitting there waiting for you. And if you're waiting for volume 3 to come out, which is gonna be soon, just know that if you go onto Amazon and you purchase the volume 1 or volume 2, it'll get you access to that group right away. Okay, and I've got a couple of them here behind me. Miss Joyce here was in our volume 1 book. And if you're listening to Joyce today and you're having amazing visuals, because she is also an artist, which we haven't really talked about today, she taught a tool in our volume 1 book about visualization and how to use that tool, you know, in your self-healing practice. So thank you for that one too, Joyce. You're amazing. But you guys can get access to this beautiful group where you can start to meet the authors, ask questions about the chapters, all of the good stuff. And I'm going to link you up down in those show notes with that page where you can figure out how to get into the group. We'll give you a link. And yeah, it's, I love that I'm feeling this shift in all different kinds of ways. It excites me that you talked about that insurance piece too, Kathleen, because that's, when we start to see that shift, we know that things are happening. Thanks for unmuting yourself there. I was getting some feedback from your square. I think it's, who knows what it is. So Joyce, I'm gonna pop the same question to you about people who are in a place where they're losing a little bit of hope about feeling better in all the different kinds of ways. What would you say to somebody?
They're losing hope and feeling all the ways. Well, I think, yeah. When you're looking at things viscerally, when you're losing hope, it's sort of like we hold the position as how we feel. We collapse in on ourselves. So there's a number of different ways to go about this. And if you're isolating or feeling depressed, it's like you isolate yourself even further. So being able to understand that there is access. These books are amazing because you don't have to go anywhere with this. When you can hear the words, you hear the stories, these people become to life to you on the pages. You're able to relate better with them. You realize that you're not alone. And I think that itself gives you a lot of hope. I think that, you know, Kathleen, I do use music a lot, and I'm really interested in this sort of mindful movement where it's like you just hear or move the way that you think without judging, without thinking, without anything, and that you're able to be observed, seen, and heard. Mm-hmm. And I think that that is one of the most vital things for your healing, is to be able to sense some sort of sense of community, to understand that there are people that you can trust that are out there that are willing to listen to you and just observe, just let you be who you are, where you're at, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that that is one of the most comforting things when you can offer, even from a distance, even from a Zoom call, you can offer that ability to bump up against this presence, virtual bubble as it is, mm-hmm. and be able to sense that the person is on the other side. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I want people to understand, that, you know, us as healers are there for them. I think that it's our moment to shine, that it's like so important for us to step out and actually find our voices to be able to assist those that are struggling, because there is so much heavy vibration and emptiness and anger and different things, where I think that so many people just have so many different ways of expressing based on their animalistic, our very basic instincts, are in survival mode. And yeah, just understanding that, I don't know, I think that one of the best ideas that we've had was that, you know, using these books for an example of giving it out to those many libraries, mm-hmm. gifting the book in order for other people to have access to it. That's been one of my biggest gifts from being a part of this project.
Same here. Thank you for being one of those. So last couple questions today, gals. Joyce, I'm going to stick with you for a minute. Talk to me about joy and healing.
Well, oh geez. All right.
We could be here all day, right?
I know. So one of the things that I think for myself as a healer is that you don't always have to be physically happy, but you can choose to turn over the rock that you carry, right? That you can look at things from a different perspective. And that with understanding that there is no one single way of looking at something. Well, maybe you could probably argue that. So please don't argue with me too strongly. I'm going general here. But there is really, truly very few instances that there is black and white. And I think that when you're feeling a certain way, when you feel anxiety, when you feel depression and all these different emotions, if you can find one glimmer, one sparkle, and remind yourself of that. You can train yourself in a way to see a glimmer of hope and realize that that light it gets brighter. It gets brighter the harder that you look.
Thank you. Yes, I'll say yes with an exclamation point, even if it's the tiniest thing, right? It's going to be something. So Kathleen, what do you think about joy and healing? I know that I'm not asking a specific question, and I'm doing that on purpose because each of you is going to have your answer, right? What comes to you when I say that?
When I think about joy, I feel like that's where I live from, is a place of joy in my heart. And I've had to work really hard to get there because it's a choice. Mm-hmm. And it's a choice that we all make of what environment we live in. And what I've learned the most about frequencies and healing and vibration is that we need other people's frequencies. And sometimes we get into situations or relationships where we need a frequency from that other person because we're lacking in that frequency. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of completes us as a necessary element, but then you don't know how to disembark on that relationship if it's not a healthy relationship. And so when you find joy, all that goes away because joy comes internally from your heart. And I do a lot of work with the heart at chakra and a lot of work with heart math and resonant frequencies and trying to find that place of joy in your own heart. And from that place of joy, then you can start to heal yourself. But you have to find something that's internal, not external, to find that joy. And I think when you find that, then the healing begins.
I love it. Wow, what a topic, right? Something that we can think about in terms of the dynamics of a relationship. That's really cool, getting me thinking in a lot of different ways. Okay, ladies, last question for both of you. Kathleen, what do you love to do so much you lose track of time?
I would say probably the thing I love most is being in the ocean. And I'm in it every day. I'm on it every day, paddling or kayaking or swimming or just being. And so that's probably where I lose my greatest sense of time, is just being in the water.
I love it. Thank you. How about you, Joyce?
I love making things, getting my hands dirty and creating. I love putting things on paper, and most often I'm listening to some sort of music that inspires me when I'm doing this, or that's definitely my joy and where I'm trying to reconnect.
I love it.
I love it.
So listeners, viewers, what do you love to do so much you lose track of time? And are you making time to do those things you love and the things that bring you that joy in your own heart, where you can create that vibration for yourself, right? It's a good question to ask yourself, to journal about all the good things. Okay, everyone, remember, you can drop down into the show description and you're going to find Kathleen Haden at goodvibrationsmusicco.com. You're going to find Miss Joyce Fishel at bluelotusphysicaltherapy.com. Please go explore their worlds. The book is coming out soon. I've got the book link to the prior volumes for you there as well. And I want you all to remember one last thing today. You were born so you are worthy. Your message matters. What if the thing you're still a little afraid to share is exactly what someone needs to hear to change or even save their life? It's time to be brave, you guys. See you next time.